Great.
Okay.
I can only see, I can see Carmen and Fribet, Rita, Ben, Olivia. I can't see the Mosaic teachers. Can anyone else?
Yeah, I can see Aisha, Fatima.
Ah, great. Aisha, do you want to say a quick hello?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. This is Aisha, and I volunteer with Mosaic now. I live in Jordan, Amman. I'm from Somalia. I've been living in Jordan since 2012. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Hi. Nice to meet you. Who else do we have from Mosaic?
Thanks.
We have Fatima. Fatima, do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, there we go.
Oh, yes, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Fatima Muhammad. I'm from Syria. I've been living in Jordan for almost 9 years now, and I've been volunteering with Mosaic in this program. Hi, everyone, again.
We do have two other teachers, but we can chase them up now. Ahmed and Maya.
Yeah, so Ahmed said he is running late, so he should be joining in a bit. Maya, we're still waiting to hear from.
Okay.
But they all should have the right link now. I think there was just some confusion around the links.
Cool.
I'll get started because, I mean, I'll say a little bit about the website generally, and then the first page is probably the most straightforward of the two. So hopefully the other two will have joined us by the time we get to page 2. So I will share my screen.
Tony, just to let you know, I'm going to have to jump out of the training. I'll be here for the first part, and then I'll have to leave just for another meeting. But Rita will be here for the full time.
Great. Okay, so hopefully what you can see in front of you is the main page of the website, beautifully designed by Bernard. It gives you an overview of the project, which really is very broad in its remit. We're trying to look at how different refugee and migrant partner organizations have moved to more online practices as a result of the pandemic. And so, you know, when familiarizing yourself with the website, you can have a look at these pages, and there's quite a bit of background information as well as in the resources section. There's also a few partner organizations named. Some of those have changed now because it wasn't an online project to begin with. It was going to be quite a different project when we got the funding. But we've tried to respond to what's happening in the world, and that means that American University of Beirut isn't involved anymore, unfortunately. But we do have the opportunity to have Simon Bolivar in Venezuela involved. Reading Refugee Support Group are already up and running, and the Council for At-Risk Academics are already up and running. So they've already submitted 2 weeks of data. So hopefully by the time Mosaic colleagues start to uploading, we've ironed out a few of the issues. I should say Bernard's ironed out a few of the issues. So what I'm going to do for the most of the remaining time is really go through what it will feel like to upload some of what we're calling data. I'll try and say a little bit about how we understand that term data in relation to this project. So you go into the activities section of the website and click on your partner's icon, which takes you to that page. And the style of the questions is in the style of a logbook, as if you're logging your daily practices, your daily routines related to classroom teaching or social media. So click on the logbook entries, and that takes you to some quite detailed instructions about how to submit your daily logbook. We're hoping that people will initially spend up to an hour on the first lot of data that they upload, trying to find ways of including different kinds of information about what it is that they're uploading. That will get faster over time. And I think when we run the second round a little bit later on in the year, we should be able to then be looking at a slightly different way of answering the questions. But we're trying to keep it really simple to begin with, because that's very easy for me to say, but often trying to reflect on one's daily practices isn't as straightforward as I'm suggesting it is. So we've kept the questions fairly rudimentary, and I'm going to go through those now. So when you hit the data upload logbook entries, you're presented with a series of logging details. And by logging these, we can see exactly, you'll be given a summary at the end, and you'll be able to see that it's all quite useful to have the different details at each entry. So today's date goes in the date of the entry being recorded. I'll put in 1348 for now. Click the consent box. And now we're sort of getting into the specific text that we are uploading. So I have chosen to upload a photograph and a little bit of commentary related to a posting that was made on Facebook regarding a sort of international network of people I'm part of, relating to a community in Spain. So this first page can be about people's informal practices. It's not about your professional practices. If it was related to COVID-19, that would be very interesting, and we would be able to build up a sort of a picture of how postings or advice or guidance kind of fits into people's social media practices. But I've chosen something that isn't directly relevant, but sort of indirectly is. So I'll try and share the picture with you now, so you just get a sense of what I'm talking about. So I don't know if you can you see that? I think I'll have to stop sharing and then just come out of that and go back in.
Tony, whilst you're doing that, I can see that Ahmed Osman, the third of our teachers, has just joined.
Great. Do you want to Ahmed, do you want to just introduce yourself while I'm sharing the screen?
I don't think his audio is connected just yet.
Okay.
1 sec.
I have a question, Tony, about this page.
Yeah.
Well, I read the page. For example, you ask in the page, ask about the for example the screen communication, for example, with Word, PowerPoint, or I don't know, maybe another apps. For example, the number 8, you ask about communicating online, you say Word or PowerPoint, or you say, did you hear me? You heard me?
Yeah, I can hear you. If we do it as we go through, Carmen, just because it's gonna be easier for me to deal with any specific questions, because I am going to go through each one. Is that okay?
Okay.
I'm really there. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see the picture? I mean, it's only a picture of a cafe. Can you see that?
We can see a Word document.
Okay, there is a Word document.
Right.
I think that, yeah, it's empty.
It's empty. The Word document is empty?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know why that is.
Maybe Tony, maybe you have, if you have opened more Word pages, maybe you selected the wrong one.
It's because it's filling. There it is. I'd enlarged it too much. There we go. Hopefully that will work. Let's try again. Okay, is that any better?
Yeah, we got it.
Yes.
Okay, fab. So this is just a picture that was taken in a cafe where I visit in Spain. And the reason I've chosen it is because the group of people that I interact with when I'm in that part of the world are from lots of different parts of the world themselves. And we communicate in that Facebook page in different languages. So, and it's slightly related to COVID because it's about the easing of the lockdown restrictions in Spain. So it's an example of a very informal social media practice with the original text. So we can see different people's postings and different examples of their language use. But as you'll see when I start to answer the question, it gives us the opportunity to establish what kinds of networks people are involved in. So this isn't forced migrants, these are all leisure migrants, but they're all using different languages to stay in touch through this network. So if I just stop sharing now and try to go back to the questions. Zoom is being really weird today. I don't know. Can you see the website now?
Yeah, we can see them.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a Facebook posting, but let's imagine I stuck that up online this morning. So the communication was on the 6th of July. I did it when I started to check my Facebook pages. So I did it about 7:30 a.m. this morning. And I was probably on Facebook for about 20 minutes. So it finished at 07:50. And at that stage, I'd used a few other social media programs. So I'll say 3 to 4 times that I'd been chatting up to that point. Where did you communicate online, at home or outside the home? So what we're going to try and capture through this question is people's existing practices. And hopefully, as people start to emerge from their homes, as lockdowns around the world ease or intensify, we'll just be able to see where people were when they were involved in this online communication. So I'm going to say at home in my dining room, which I use as an office. don't know why that's stuck, but it doesn't normally stick there. Number 5, why did you communicate online? This refers to the purpose of the online chat which you are uploading. So again, this is trying to capture people's family or friendship networks. So I'm going to say, I use this Facebook site to stay in touch with an international community of friends. I want to see how lockdown is easing in this town in Spain. So this could be something people obviously use Facebook for staying in touch with family, particularly refugees and migrants. So it could be sharing a photograph, it could be sharing something more formal. But this text box is designed to try to capture a little bit of the detail as to the purpose of the communication. With whom did you communicate? For example, friends, colleagues, family, or just family. So I'm going to say friends, and because my family don't speak Spanish. So in this particular, we could imagine that in this particular community, English is the dominant language, whereas there are other networks where communication is predominantly in Spanish, but they're not used by everybody in this network. Do you use more than one chat program at the same time? So if I was using WhatsApp to stay in touch with somebody who's part of this existing Facebook network, then I can add yes there, which again is just it's not a profound way of seeing how all of these different resources can be used synchronously, but it does start to capture like how people are involved in multiple activities at one time. So we're developing that with these additional questions. What else were you doing while you were communicating online? So for example, I could have been sharing the post with my partner. So I could have been reading out the on-screen activities and either doing a bit of translation or just saying what was happening. Number 9, what else did you do while you are looking at the screen? For example, did you read aloud the communication to someone else in your family? So I read out the English post and translated to Spanish to my partner. So again, it might not always be around language. I'm trying to sort of push it towards a response that captures some of the multilingualism that goes on when refugees and migrants post online, but it depends on what the text is for that day. Number 10 is, so we've gone past number 9. So Carmen, do you want to turn on your audio and ask your question again?
Yes, in this moment I understand. Yes.
Yeah? Okay, great.
Yes.
And any other question, what we'll do is we'll go to the end of this page, and then any questions about this page we can respond to before moving on to page 2.
Okay.
So question 10, is there anything else you wish to record in this entry? That's repeated there, we need to delete that. Please add any additional description that is useful about how you communicated. So I've chosen quite a simple text here. Perhaps over time that the texts will become more detailed, more multimodal. Maybe there'll be different modes of communication involved. Maybe there'll be a bit of Google Translate. So I could say I used Google Translate to translate a posting from a person in, let's say, Romanian. So there might be a Romanian person in that network of friends, and she posted something up online in Romanian. And I don't speak Romanian, so I've used Google Translate. It could be something like, I check this Facebook page every morning. because I want to visit Spain soon. I am waiting to hear when that's possible. So any information related to COVID or just relating to people's current situation. And then if I didn't want to upload the text, which I'm going to do, I could paste the text here so that it's an alternative way of sharing the data. And then I'm just going to upload the text. And before I hit next, now's probably a good time to answer any questions about this page.
Well, I have a question. It's possible to translate this page in Spanish.
Great question. Thank you, Carmen. Bernard has created a website that allows us to do that. So if I don't know if you can still see my screen, but up at the top on the right, there's a select language Google function, and yes,
Okay.
you can it translates the whole page into Spanish. Is that right, Bernard?
Yes, Tony, translates all the text into Spanish, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Tony, question 10 wasn't, when you're going through it, wasn't quite clear. This is just additional information generally. I'm just thinking through the example, how the person from Romania was relevant to you, the Facebook posting that you were capturing.
Yeah, so the idea here would be, because this page is replicated for every partner, some of the partners are part of networks, online networks, where people with different language backgrounds are communicating online. And sometimes we just ignore those posts. Sometimes we feel we want to know what's being said. So my example here is that the cafe in my data for this day is run by a Romanian family. So even though their customers tend to communicate in English or Spanish, they do sometimes post in Romanian. And it's an example here. So it's sort of trying to pick up on another aspect of language. Does that answer the question, Ben?
Yeah, so it's something that's connected to this post.
Yes.
Whether that's through the background of the person that you're seeing it from, or contextually relevant. Okay.
Yeah, and contextually relevant is really useful, because what we all, I think, have a tendency to do is to start to talk quite generally about things that we do. We want to sort of really encourage all of the community researchers to make it as specific as possible. So when you're filling in these boxes, tell us about the context, but the context of this posting, not what you would normally do or generally do, or, you know, just stick to what's going on here, but you know, give us as much detail as possible. I mean, the idea is that it generates quite a lot, hopefully, over, you know, as people get up and running and more familiar with thinking through and reflecting on the data. Hopefully it will generate some quite nice detail, and then that's up to us to be able to analyze that qualitative data and pick out those patterns and pick out those similarities and differences. Any other questions? Okay, right. So it's let me move. Normally it asks me for that little code at the bottom, Bernard, but anyway, it's not done this time. So I've moved on to page 2, which is clearly marked for Mosaic researchers only. Please select one activity from an online lesson. Oh, by the way, we're probably going to get kicked out of Zoom. I hope that doesn't create problems for getting back in. Just click on the original link, or the link that you clicked on for this Zoom session, and then we'll just carry on. But for now, I think we've got about 5 minutes left, so I'll keep going. So for this page, this is your Mosaic specific page. And we need to familiarize yourselves a little bit with what's going on here, because there's two options. As it says in the information, please select one activity from an online lesson that you taught today, or one example of a post or content that was shared in your online class WhatsApp group. So it's an activity from a lesson or postings from your online class WhatsApp group. And you'll see how you navigate those two options in a moment. If you select your lesson activity in question 18 below, answer the questions below. If you select WhatsApp post in question 18 below, skip to the next page. So once you've had a go at this, it is pretty straightforward, I promise. And then please upload the activity you have selected to report on at the link provided at the top of the section, corresponding to your choice before proceeding to the answer the relevant questions. Okay, we might want to, I did say that was really clear. It sounds more complicated now than it is. I think if you're not sure, have a go at uploading something and we can look at that sentence again. So imagine, this is where I'm going to need your help, Mosaic people. So imagine you're choosing a lesson activity. You uploaded a WhatsApp post from your WhatsApp lesson group the previous day, and you think, right, today I'm going to choose a lesson activity. Number 19, please attach one activity from an online lesson that you taught today. So you might want to cut and paste that into its own Word document. You might want to screenshot that. However you choose to anonymize, if you need to, that activity and upload it, you do that first so that you've got the actual activity clear in your mind when answering the follow-up questions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask for a few examples. So I'll pick some names randomly. Let's start with Ben, and then we'll get to some of the teachers. So Ben, could you give us an example of question 1020? What is the aim of this activity? For example, practicing speaking about transport or learning about connectives. Could you give me an example of an aim?
Yeah, sure. So maybe I've uploaded a file that is of a newspaper article. And therefore the aim is to generate discussion and language around this article.
Generate discussion and language around this article. So I'm gonna try to remember back to when I was teaching, when I was an English language teacher, and I'm just going to flesh this out just so that you've got an example of the kind of detail, the ideal. Sometimes it's not always going to be this detailed, but a sort of ideal scenario for this section. So just to expand a little bit, I might want to say discussion about, let's think what's happening in the world at the moment. Let's just say discussion about Black Lives Matter relating to global movement. Just a topic that we could have talked about in the lesson. And then the language, maybe the specific language aim was, I don't know, developing speaking skill and using, I don't know what level the learners are here, Ben, but I could say, and using first conditional, just as an example. I know it's very languagey, and that's not how your lessons work. You have a different pedagogy to the one I was using when I was a language teacher. But just to sort of try and hone in on the sort of micro level of the lesson, and hopefully that just gives us a little bit of a focus, because you can imagine if the next day you choose to upload a lesson plan, we need to see some connection between what happened in today's lesson and what happened in Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. And again, it's about over 2 weeks. weeks, we should be able to look back at all of the responses for question 20 for one teacher, and get a little bit of an understanding of what they covered over 2 weeks in the classroom. Okay, so question 21, how did you adapt this activity to deliver it in an online lesson? So I don't know if Ahmed, Aisha, Fatima, Maya, could you jump in?